Everybody knows you as like this marketing alpha person on Twitter. I don't think I've ever read your personal story.
I actually got my start as anonymous content creator and was anonymous for the first 7 months of my journey.
What did you learn in these 7 months, and why did you decide that, okay, now I'm just going to come out as Justin?
Becoming a founder, it really became clear to me that the best way to distribute my company, to raise fundraising, etc., was going to be to have a personal brand.
So what's like a realistic timeline for you to build a personal brand?
This answer might be disappointing in terms of the actual timeline for growth.
For you in your personal journey, when did you actually see the benefits of your personal brand?
I felt the effects pretty immediately within crypto.
It feels like there is a marketing crisis in the industry.
A lot of founders still think that marketing is magic and that our jobs are easy. I mean, at the highest level, I think it's a mismatch between expectations and reality.
So what is your advice to a founder who has raised 8 million and is struggling to hire a CMO?
Most crypto companies don't need a CMO.
Okay.
They want this prestige of, we're going to hire a CMO.
Now let's go to the other side, like the person who's wanting to get hired.
It's really tough out there. And I think that the truth of the matter is that
wow, I think I'm learning so much, in this chat. This is a conversation with Justin Vogel, founder of Safary Club, a customer data platform built for crypto teams. If you are a Web3 marketer, this episode is a must listen. That's all I will say, and the rest I will let the content speak for itself. Enjoy the conversation. So everybody knows you as like this marketing alpha person on Twitter and LinkedIn. It's always I end up saying Twitter. So on X and LinkedIn, and we listen to all this advice. But, I don't think I've ever read your personal story, like who you are, how did you get into this crazy space, and also maybe a bit on Safary Club, because we all marketers are there. But I'm sure like I was quite ignorant till a long time until I got to the website and everything. So I would love if you start with this background.
Yeah, so my background's all in marketing. I got my start in Web2. I worked for 2 different marketplace companies, which I think marketplaces are a lot like crypto ecosystems as well. So thinking about multiple sides and multiple personas at once. The first one that I worked at was a really small talent marketplace, matching engineers with jobs. And we really found that the secret sauce of that business was a community-led growth strategy that I was in charge of. And so I got a lot of inspiration for Safari's community and Safari's business through that first job that I had. Believe it or not, I was actually running a Discord server of 10,000 developers on Discord in 2017, long before I got into crypto. So I had seen a lot of these strategies play out firsthand and seen their power as well. And after that company got acquired, I went to a larger marketplace that I always say was kind of the perfect place for a early stage growth marketer. They had raised a Series B and a Series C back to back within like 5 months of each other. And then I joined right after that. So they essentially were I like to say, they had Series C money, but seed stage problems, which meant that nothing was figured out at the company, but everything that started to work, we were able to scale very quickly from 0 to 1 to 10 and beyond. So my beginnings there were on the sort of like traditional programmatic advertising side, doing paid media. But where I really found my bread and butter was with financial incentives. So I became the leader of the company's financial incentives program and platform. So what that means is when I got into crypto, I had this very strangely crypto marketing-esque background, half in community, half in incentive experiments and incentive design. And what was really fascinating to me in the 2021 bull market was that people were using these strategies that I knew so well, but in a completely new way with a very massive impact compared to what I had seen was possible in Web 2. And so that's really what drew me in, was seeing just a massive and tremendous growth of companies in the 2021 bull market. But what I realized is that nobody was talking about growth or marketing in 2021 in crypto. And so it just became very obvious to me that somebody was going to have to talk about growth and marketing in crypto eventually. And I thought, why not it be me? I actually got my start as anonymous content creator, talking about crypto marketing and other marketing topics, especially around DAOs, and was anonymous for the first 7 months of my journey. But about 2 months in, it just became obvious that a community of marketers was needed, and I was really looking for my people. And so we launched Safary as a community initially in February 2022. And along the way, we've also created a awesome tech platform, which is a customer data platform for crypto marketers, and really built out what we see as the Web3 growth ecosystem today. So that's a short intro on myself. In conclusion, started off in marketplace companies and slowly built the Web3 growth ecosystem over the past 3 years.
That's fascinating. Actually, I have two follow-ups on that. Can you explain what was like you said you were working on financial incentives? What does that mean?
So really, a lot of marketplace companies, and this is the same
Mhm.
as crypto ecosystems, would try and incentivize different participants in their marketplace to take the action that they wanted. So, for example, in this marketplace, we're matching warehouse workers with jobs. So you can think about this, excuse me, you can think about this like a gig economy marketplace like Uber.
Mhm.
On one side, we had talent that was picking up daily job shifts, and on the other side, we had businesses that were posting daily jobs. Um, and what this meant was we were trying to figure out, instead of just constantly having to go out and acquire more users, aka workers, how could we get the workers that we already had on the platform to do more jobs weekly? So I was thinking
Mhm.
about, if you work 3 days a week today, how can we get you to do four days that week? How
Okay.
much additional money do we have to pay you? But what's interesting is that, sort of similar to crypto, financial incentives started very immaturely.
Mhm.
Um, Even though we didn't call it an airdrop, that's kind of how things typically works in marketplaces. Is if you had a market, usually like a geographical market, like Chicago, and it was a new market. Basically, what you would do is you would financially incentivize all the jobs in the market all at once. So if the marketplace average was paying $14 an hour, you'd make it $18 an hour to make those jobs extra attractive and get people to start taking them. But we quickly realized that that doesn't work. You need to be hyper targeted with your incentives to think about what is the exact target persona and frequency of user that would benefit from these financial incentives to get them to actually take those incremental jobs. So my job was running all these different experiments each month.
Yeah.
At scale, we ended up running around 15 experiments a month. So working with the data scientists, head of product, and engineers to build out a platform that could run these incentive experiments, but really defines that, what is that right match between the persona and the amount of money that would target somebody to act.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad, you spoke about this because like I think the industry right now is so gated towards Web2 marketeers. And sometimes we really ignore like the learnings we can get from Web2 within Web3 because I think like we suck as an industry with data-driven marketing and like metrics and it's all about like vibe and everything. Anyway, we'll speak about this also. And then you mentioned that you were an anonymous creator for like 7 months, which is also one of the topics that's very interesting. So, what did you learn in these 7 months, and why did you decide that, okay, now I'm just going to come out as Justin and that's going to work? Maybe that is the path I want to take, and why?
Yeah, so the in these first 7 months, I was really so I entered crypto as a founder. We always thought they
Mhm.
were going to build a marketing tech platform, but yeah, in the early days, basically we still weren't exactly sure that like we were going to end up in crypto, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like
Mhm.
dabbling in crypto. I wasn't ready to be like, I'm Justin Vogel and I'm in crypto and here's all my thoughts.
Mm.
I had also never had a personal brand before I joined crypto. So all of this was kind of like new and uncomfortable for me. A lot of Web2 marketers, and I count myself as one of them, we're always behind the scenes in Web2 doing marketing and growth. Like we weren't like big personal brand people in Web 2. So there's no need to have a personal brand, no incentive to. But becoming a founder, it really became clear to me that the best way to distribute my company to get raise fundraising, et cetera, was going to be to have a personal brand. But it was also really just important for me to do that to build connections in the space. I met a lot of friends through building this personal brand. And it started off quite slow because I wasn't ready to say like this is me. It meant that the audience that I built on Twitter in that time was completely people I didn't know. So I had to solve the cold start problem. It wasn't like, and first I add my like 400 friends. It was like, no, it's like I started from zero, from all people that didn't know me yet. It was an interesting challenge, but I think that also made it a lot safer. Like from like a personal brand sense, but also from like a personal confidence sense to start putting my ideas out there about what I thought about crypto and crypto marketing.
So, how long did it take you to actually build credible personal brand? Because I think also there are a lot of misconceptions about, oh, I'm going to get like 10,000 followers in 6 months. And honestly, like I've been on Twitter for a while. So this is also like a question I want to learn personally. And somehow I feel I'm able to grow it for founders. But when it comes to like growing my own personal brand, I sort of struggle. It could also be consistency and time. And now I've started posting like more regularly. So, what's like a realistic timeline for you to build a personal brand? So, that's my first question. And my second question is like for you in your personal journey, when did you actually see the benefits of your personal brand and what opportunities did it open for you?
I mean, this answer might be disappointing in terms of the actual timeline for growth. Like, I think if you do it like I did it and truly grow organically from zero, it takes a lot longer than people would hope it would take.
Hmm.
For me, and I'm a career marketer as well, so I probably had some advantage, even though I'd never created a personal brand before. It took me probably about 6 months to go from 0 to 1,000 followers. And so that was really the beginning. And I think that, yeah, of course, you can probably grow faster than that. But at the same time, people really underestimate how long it takes to build an organic following, especially in the early days. A lot of crypto founders are like, cool, we just hired you. We have this Twitter account that has zero. Please get it to 100,000 followers in like 3 months. And like most career marketers, like that's impossible unless like we cheat and like get you a bunch of bots, which is like
Mhm.
long term bad, maybe short term okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that is was the truth for me. It did take time to build an organic following. Um, in terms of the effects, though, I would say like I felt the effects pretty immediately within crypto of when I was starting to build this personal brand, what it did for unlocking and opening doors, even when I had way less than 1,000 followers, like the first couple hundred followers. One of the strategies that I was doing, and this also might make sense for how I was able to sort of develop relationships even with a small following, was I was basically, and this was like before ChatGPT, so maybe not as much of a valuable strategy today, but I was reading long form like articles on crypto, and then I was summarizing them on Twitter in like very high quality format. So I'd be like, I read this article by this person and tag them, right, of this company and tag them.
Hmm.
Here's the thread. So just producing all these threads on a range of different interesting growth articles that I read. But what I found for that, both from like a growth strategy and a connections point of view, is the author, if they thought that the summary was high quality, they'd retweet it. Because for them, right, it's like somebody wanted to write about my article on Twitter. This is really awesome, and they did a good job, and so now I retweet it. That helps me get more followers, but it also gives me a great way in to say like, "Hey, I really enjoyed your article. Would you be open to chat with me. And many people were very open to chat with me, even that's when I had like 100 followers, 200 followers. So I found that that was a really great
Mm.
way for me to grow, but also to build connections with a much smaller account than people expect. Um, and I see the same thing today too. There are plenty of people that follow me and Safari's account that have 200 followers, 300 followers that produce great content about Safari. And I absolutely notice those people. And many of them reach out to me and I book calls with them and we chat. So I think that people also underestimate how many followers they actually need for it to start making an impact for them.
I think coming back to Safari, so the community aspect of it, I think you're also running a cohort. You posted about it like a few, I think yesterday or day before that, it's starting. And can you like list the advantages of being a part of this community, how to get into this community? Is it only for like marketing alpha or like for everybody? And why is it useful?
So Safari Club, and we're on the batch 8 right now. Is a very intimate community, and we have scaled it extremely slowly over time. So we've become very selective. The community today is 350 people with the addition of this new batch, and that's over the course of 3 years. So we essentially take 100-ish people per year, and we definitely took more people in the early days. So now we'll probably take 80-ish per year. So extremely selective to get into, and that's quite intentional as well. What I saw in the 2021 bull market times is a lot of things that people called community that I didn't think were a community. There were 100,000 person Discord servers with a lot of like mess, millions of language channels, all sorts of like insanity. And I was like, this is not a community. And this is not a community that could be run by an individual. Like a lot of those companies, these NFT companies at the time, were staffing like 10, 15 community moderators to come to a community to like make this thing work. And so when I came in and started thinking about Safari Club's community, I was like, I want to do the exact opposite to that. So all the communities are open, our community will be closed. All the communities are text based, our community will be audio based. Um, and so that is the big part about Safari. Safari's been audio based from the very beginning. And what this means is that within the Safari community, we have weekly calls on a range of different Web3 growth topics. But the most popular format that we do is we'll tap 2 to 3 Safari members from a certain vertical. So, say, like how to grow ecosystems, how to grow restaking protocols, how to grow games, and ask them about their growth strategies, their challenges, and their tech stacks. Um, and there are two things that we find with these calls. One is that a lot of the growth leaders that are out there are extremely dialed into their niche or the ecosystem that they're a part of, but they often don't see anything beyond that. And so these calls are a great way for growth leaders to see in deep depth what growth leaders in a different or adjacent vertical to them are doing and trying and thinking about in real time. So that's one great benefit. The second is that these calls are by going vertical by vertical in this format. The people who are speaking on the calls are almost always direct competitors to each other. So this requires a lot of sort of like openness and collaboration to be like, I'm going to hop on a Safari call and share my growth strategy and my challenges, while I know that my direct competitor, the head of marketing at my competitor protocol, is not only listening, but also speaking alongside me. And this really creates a really strong culture of being open and collaborative in Safari Club. So the level of candor that you get on these calls is very much unheard of compared to what you see on crypto Twitter in terms of the openness that people are willing to share. And so this creates a very unique environment for learning about growth. So on so the conclusion there is basically if you want to learn what other growth people are doing today, there's no better way to learn than by these Safari calls that we have in the community. And our members tell us that it's the highest leverage hour of their week every week. The second big thing that we do within the Safari community is, especially in those early days, there were a lot of growth leaders that were operating the shadows, but none of them knew each other. There was like uh, there was really no ecosystem and industry for growth. There were growth leaders, they were doing marketing, they didn't have anyone at their company that was doing marketing, so they had no one to talk to at their company. They also didn't know anyone in the industry. It was very hard to identify marketers. People didn't put marketing at blank in their Twitter bio because I think it's maybe like seen as shameful or something to be like not a dev.
Okay.
So yeah, what we do there is at the beginning of every batch, we talk to every single person that joins, and then we use what we learn about them to match them with the best person that we think they could connect with right now. So, in some, Safari is basically the best way to meet the best growth leaders and get a curated match to another great growth leader that's done by us, in addition to learning about growth in real time in a way that would be impossible in any other context.
So, is the badge the only way that I can join this community, or is there any other way?
So yes, that's the only way today, but we
Okay.
also have a public facing community as
Mhm.
well, which is Twitter has a communities feature, and it's a great opportunity for people to create content, and then have that content is viewable on their profile as well. And so we've, over the last year, created the biggest and most engaged community on X
Yes.
for both crypto marketing, but also for marketing in general on Twitter. Our community is the most active one for the marketing subject in general on Twitter today, which is really awesome to
Mhm.
see.
Yeah, that's how basically I discovered it. So when is the next next batch, and when are you opening applications for it? Because this one is closed, right?
The next batch will be January 2026.
Oh, there's a long time for that.
That's
So
what I said.
anyone,
Actually, once a year. We're doing it once every 9 months.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean I love that actually. It's targeted, it's value, it's and so everybody listening has to wait for like 9 months until then you can engage on X. And I think the community problem you mentioned is sort of still exists, with these numbers. And I mean, even as like a marketing head, I always get these targets from founders that why are these Discord numbers not increasing, and why is this not happening? And I think now marketers also get more educated, and we realize that we eventually want users for our product from the community, and we want a community that understands our product, which I think when I entered marketing was pretty much not even the criteria. We were just like building communities without a focus. um, I want to dig into a topic that is, I think it will be valuable to any marketer listening right now. And also, I do a lot of hiring myself. I've also interviewed for jobs in the past. I also see jobs now. And I think this is a topic I really want to talk about. On this podcast, every founder or every third founder who's come, or the other podcasts I do for other brands, if you ask them what's the most difficult hire for them, they end up saying it's the marketing person. And the industry sort of feels, and you talk to recruiters and they feel, oh my god, hiring a head of growth is so difficult, hiring a CMO is so difficult. And it feels like there is a marketing crisis in the industry. The job postings have changed drastically from now wanting a CMO to have 10,000 followers, a personal brand, or I don't know, some kind of persona that was not existing. So I want to ask you, like, you talk to so many marketers, why do you feel that the founders feel there's a marketing crisis and it is the most difficult hire in the industry right now?
I think, I mean, at the highest level, I think it's a mismatch between expectations and reality.
Hmm.
Is that one of the biggest problems, right? Is, and you know this as a marketer as well, is marketers often get hired 3 months before a TG, 6 months before a TG max. And so in many ways, at that point in time, they're already set up for failure. And so basically founders are hiring marketers when it's way too late. And marketers are required to not only do the job of marketing, they're typically required to do the job of product as well, in a way, right? So what typically happens? Company goes heads down, builds some protocol for like 1.5 to 2 years, and they're like, okay, now it's time to TGE. We should hire a marketer. Um, but at the point in time in which they start hiring for that marketer, uh, many of them have never talked to a user before. You'd be actually surprised about how many protocols have been built for years and never done a single user interview. So you're a new marketer, you're coming into this, you have to go figure out what users actually want. Like, you have to
Yeah.
like build the positioning based off of that, build the branding, build the lore, the story, etc. And then you can start doing growth after that, right? But all that stuff that I mentioned to brand something, to figure out the positioning, the strategy, where we are in the market, what the users want, that is like a serious lift of a process for any company at any stage, at any point in time. And you have one marketing person trying to do that. So, you know, meanwhile, as a marketer is doing that work, the founders are expecting, why are we not growing on Twitter? Why are we not growing
Mm.
faster? Et cetera, et cetera. So I think that a lot of founders still think that marketing is magic and that our jobs are easy, but
Mhm.
that couldn't be further from the truth. And I think that this mismatch between expectations and reality also come from the fact that most founders have never done marketing before, in any context. So they don't exactly know how hard and difficult it is, or they think it's hard and difficult, but only for them because it's not their job, right? And that
Mhm.
somebody else could do it well for them. And if they're not growing from 0 to 10K to 100K in a matter of months and doing the positioning, the rebrand, etc., that they must be a bad marketer. And that's just truthfully, in my opinion, not the case. Um, so we have to remember that, what founders expect is essentially like a full stack marketing team in a single hire, a designer, a product manager, a marketer, a community manager, a BD lead. Often they don't know exactly what they need either, I think is the second big part, right? Is in a traditional Web2 company, you'd say, our growth strategy is to sell to, developers, and thus we need somebody who's a DevRel person. Um, but in crypto, we said we need to grow our ecosystem, and therefore we need somebody that can do um, DevRel, that's dev facing, that can also do BD, because we're going to have institutional clients, and can also do marketing to get to retail, all as the same person. And that's just what growth is. But that is most certainly not the case. If we think about Web2, right, it's like you have like a paid media manager, you have a social media manager, you have a community manager, you have like probably a team of 10 that does what founders expect a single marketer to do, in the space today.
Yeah. So, okay. So, one is like the expectation mismatch. And second, but do you feel that, I mean, of course, it's not possible for marketers to do like all of this, but I have been the first marketing hire in so many companies. And I know the struggle. Like,
Yeah.
it's like you always need a team of freelancers if you need something very quickly. You also need to have this expectation thing. I don't know. I lost the question, but I feel like these two are the reasons. So, what is your advice to a founder of, say, who has raised 8 million and is struggling to hire a CMO? That's the that's the profile that I talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd even modify the question as well, in that I think that most crypto companies don't need a CMO.
Okay.
They want this prestige of, we're going to hire a CMO.
Mhm.
But truthfully, you don't need a CMO at a pre-seed or seed stage company ever. Web 2
Mhm.
as well. Um, because a CMO is like a battlefield general, right? Like they design the strategy and the brands and the worlds and all these different things, but they are nothing without an army. And what a lot of founders expect is that they can hire a general and not have any people under that person. Um, so I think that that's another way that people get set up for failure. But in terms of like, if we think about like a head of marketing hire, um, I think what they should be doing and thinking about is having a team of three. And I know sounds like a luxury in crypto, but if you're raising 8 million, I
Yes.
think you can hire one less dev and then hire,
Hmm.
two people for your to work with your head of marketing. And I think that it all depends on how that company will actually grow, right? Like, what is the strategy? Based on the strategy, that tells you what roles you need to hire for. Um, but we have a lot of like full stack generalist marketers in crypto just because no one has ever had the luxury to have multiple people on a single team that do that function. So that would be my first advice, is to say like, if you've raised 8 mil, expect to hire a team, like two people. Maybe that'll be a marketer and a BD person, um, or a marketer and a product manager. But uh, I think that we need to dispel this myth that marketing can be done by just a single person, or like the entire growth
Yeah.
function can be done by a single growth person.
No, I think that's great advice. Like a CMO, like split the CMO salary into like senior marketing, community, like or whatever, and one like social media person, and then eventually when you grow, you can think of having a CMO. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are open to that, but we will still communicate it. Now let's go to the other side, like the person who's wanting to get hired. That's the marketeer. And I can talk about my personal story, and I can talk about a lot of people who are into this, right? So let's say there's a person who's a marketing generalist, has been like a first hire in a lot of small startups, done a lot of groundwork, became head of marketing, has a small team, and now wants to go into a become wants to join like a big company or become a CMO of a big company. But most big companies now want to hire people that have experience with either L1s or have done a TGE before. What does this marketer do to go to the next league? Would you recommend this person to become a freelancer for some time, take gigs, and then go for a full time job, or just keep trying?
I think it's so hard. Well, I think that you actually described in my mind two different personas. There's
Yeah.
the
Okay.
persona A of the person who is like in crypto, exploring, trying to break into marketing. And then there's the persona of the person who's already working full time in crypto, and basically came in at the ground floor and is like now like in charge of everything in a protocol, but probably a
Hmm.
small protocol, and is trying to
Hmm.
like get to the next level in their career.
Hmm.
For the first for the first group of people, I think uh, it's really tough out there. I'll be the first one to say this. Like,
Hmm.
I have people in my DMs every day being like, "Can you review my resume? Like, how do I get a crypto marketing job?" And I think that the like truth of the matter is that people, and this kind of goes back to the CMO, the perceived CMO crisis,
Hmm.
is that all these founders like there are no crypto marketers, or the crypto marketers aren't good enough. Um, but that's really not true. There are lots of people who are eagerly and desperately trying to look for a crypto marketing job, but are not getting hired, even at senior levels. And so I think that it would be to keep trying to try and get personal, to network, to build a personal brands. I think that these are the core functions. I think building a personal brands, whatever happens, whether you become a founder, whether you stay as a marketer, is a good thing for your career, and is becoming increasingly important in crypto. And I don't see that changing in the short term. So I see that only as net positive, but it's still tough out there.
Hmm.
I think that there's a lot of founders who go out to hire a crypto marketer, interview a ton of people, and then don't hire anyone. I certainly see that as well, which
Yeah.
is kind of like a big bait and switch
Hmm.
in the industry. So I think it's really, really difficult from what I see for somebody to get their first crypto marketing job, even if they're fairly crypto native in terms of being in the industry and using crypto products.
Second, second
Second,
category.
second category. Um, I think a lot of this is relationship building as well, right? I think that the biggest challenge that these heads of marketing have is they end up owning the function, but the founding team doesn't trust them, and so they get kind of stuck in their career at a
Mm-hmm.
protocol. Um, they have the title that would, whether it's a head of marketing and even many CMOs, they have the title that would suggest to somebody on the outside that they have a seat at the table at the company, but internally that's not the case. And so I think that one of the biggest learnings here is to think really deeply about how you can get a seat at the table within your current company before you move on, because I think that that is a problem that will follow you no matter what team you're on. And a lot of it is being able to explain what crypto marketing is, and build trust and set the right expectations around it for somebody who's never done marketing before and doesn't understand marketing to think that you're doing a good job. Uh, the sort of like what I always come back to with this is so in Safari, as I stated before, in the Safari Club, we have very legit head of marketings and CMO from all the top different protocols. And in one of the past batches, one CMO said, "Hey, I'm going on a company retreat. I'm gonna explain crypto marketing to my like leadership
Mm-hmm.
team. Curious if anyone has any like decks or marketing materials from having done this before." It was silent,
Nobody.
dead silent. Nobody's ever done it before. And that was
Okay.
only like a year ago. And I think that that's largely still the case. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, on one hand, I love to shitpost about founders being terrible to marketers, but I also think that marketers need to step up, and that means really proving their worth and figuring out how to speak in the language of technical founders to make them understand what great marketing is and looks like so that they can earn that seat at the table over time. I think that this is the biggest challenge that faces more senior level marketing hires today is how can I prove my worth to somebody that doesn't yet understand what marketing is? And this is a particularly tricky challenge because a lot of times in Web two you didn't have to do that, right? In
Mm-hmm.
Web two, people took for granted that growth was already a proved out function. Everyone's gonna have a growth. Every like company's gonna have a growth team. It's gonna look like XYZ. That team's gonna be like the most important, team in our company. We're gonna invest a bunch of money into it, but that's not the case in crypto today. And it's still up to marketers to basically make the case for why a company should have a marketer in the first place. So I think that that's very much the big challenge ahead.
Okay, so get a seat at the table in your existing treat this as a playground, get some badges, and then once you gain that confidence, also because this process will give you confidence, you look for
Yeah,
your next job. Another question is that do you think most of the hiring is happening through recommendations? And does it make sense for me to apply for jobs, especially for like senior level positions in crypto? Because honestly, like I just did an intern position and I got like 300 applications. Even my
yeah.
recruitment head doesn't want to go through like 300 applications for an intern. So what's happening? How are people hiring?
I think a lot of it is referral and personal network based, and I
Mm.
think a lot of it is also, you know, people creatively messaging and getting in front of people through DMs. So I think that a lot of it is either going in the back door or going in the side door, and not a lot at the top of the funnel.
Mhm.
And I'll also tell you why I think that um, going, just normal applying is maybe not the most effective strategy. I can share this from our experience hiring our growth lead.
Okay.
Um, we got we hired our growth lead, for context for those that are listening, a year and a half ago, so a different time in the market,
Mhm.
end of 2023. So things are bad. I mean, things are bad now, but
Yeah.
things were also bad then. So we got a lot of interest in this role. And also, I mean, we're the leading brand of growth, so growth leaders would obviously want to work for a company that
Mhm.
is known for um, their skill. Um, and what I saw when I was reviewing these resumes is you see a few things. One, they're the companies that you've known about, like the tier one companies, MoonPay, Coinbase,
Mhm.
Kraken, etc. Um, and so you think to yourself, like, wow, like, okay, this person has like worked for this brand name company. But
Yeah.
then you think
Yeah.
to yourself as an early stage founder, that's kind of like the big tech of crypto. Like those people are not going to be useful to me. Like they're
Mhm.
going to be bad at their job, right? So like you throw
Mhm.
that out, right?
Mhm.
Immediately. You're like, I don't want anyone that worked at, 1,000-person crypto startup. They're not going to help me as the like, first like five
Mhm.
hires. So they're gone. And then after that, you're looking at a lot of people who worked for protocols that you've never heard of before and were there for some period of time. Um, a lot of them were in jobs for 7 months, 8 months, 4 months, 9 months. Not that many people who are there at a protocol for 1 year, let alone like 1.5 to 2 years. And from like a traditional hiring perspective, when you see somebody who sort of like switches jobs every like 7 months, you're like, wow, they must be terrible, right? But that's just like also the nature of like these expectations versus reality in crypto is, and not getting a seat at the table is, if you can't prove marketing is a function, then you're going to get axed.
Mhm.
And and if you can't deliver 100,000 followers in 6 months, you're going to get axed. Um, and so I'm not saying that this is the right thing, but I think that this is the reality for what a lot of crypto marketing resumes look like. So you have that problem. And then you have the problem of like the protocol, right? I've never heard of this protocol before.
Yeah.
And thus, I think that maybe this person is not legit, but also I'm like you even have your own bias. They're the marketer. If they're growing this protocol I've never heard
Mhm.
of before, then they must not have been that good at their job, and I want someone more. So I think by doing the resume screen, it's really impossible to figure out who is good, who is not good, in a way that I feel like we had more qualifiers in Web 2. There were just more companies, I'd say, in this like middle section of like
Mhm.
they're known, but they're not massive. Right? Like in, you know, in our world today, right? There's like the Trader Joe's the world that are like all these like 100 mil TVL protocols, I'd say, or this like mid market. You've probably
Mhm.
heard about them. They're like a lean, probably 20-person team.
Yeah.
You're like, this person did a good job if they're working at one of these protocols, but there are not many of them, right? They're probably, I don't know, 3,000 protocols total. And so then there are probably like 100 of these companies that like fit into this middle zone. And then most of the companies no one's ever heard of before. So I think that the resume screen is just like an impossible trap basically for anyone applying through the front door. And so as a result of that, I think the only way in is to go in through a side door or back door. Because yeah, honestly, like for us, like we got hundreds of applications. I interviewed
Mhm.
probably way more people than I should have or needed to.
Yeah.
Interviewed like 40 people for our role. Um, and that was really the only way to figure out, who would actually be good at our company in this role. And I had the advantage of being a marketer, so I knew what I was looking for. So then you
Okay.
compound that right with a technical founder who's never done marketing before, is looking at all these resumes,
Mhm.
being like, this doesn't seem right, and then has to go and vet a marketer, and they're like, we don't really know. So I think that the challenges are on both sides for sure, of like why it's both difficult to hire and to get a job,
Yeah.
and stand out in crypto if you go through the front door in a traditional way.
So this person, your head of growth, came through the application process eventually? Okay.
So
Yeah.
this is well, I'd say this is a side door.
Okay.
Is that we had 100 people apply. Of them, 7 of them were Safari members, so Safari
Okay.
Club members, and
Mhm.
he was one of them. So we ended up hiring somebody directly from the community.
Yeah. Wow, I think I'm learning so so much, in this chat. I have so many questions, but I think we have like we don't have so much time, Justin. I don't know how we're going to cover that. But maybe I think we can do a bit on like data driven marketing, because I think that's your expertise and sucks in the industry right now. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, why do we suck at data driven marketing in Web3, and how can we solve this?
I think there are a few reasons why we suck at data-driven marketing Web3. I think the biggest reason is that people don't really they don't care about the things that they should care about is the first part of
Hmm.
this, right? Is like a lot of um, success of some protocols, right? Especially if we like think about if you think about like the road to TG, which has been the journey that a lot of growth leaders have been trying to
Hmm.
be successful at over the last like 2 years, is you have a product and your product does something for persona A. But you're like, actually, we don't need to care about persona A because we need to like sell our product to this DGen retail VC audience that is not our users. And so you end up going away from the people who are theoretically going to use your product to this random weird, like black ops like world of how do we convince all these people to like put money into our protocol? So I think that that's the first problem in crypto marketing is what is the persona that actually matters to you? And how do you convince that persona to do what you want them to do? That's the first part, right? And if it's this sort of like other underground worlds of, people who will boost your TG price, that's often not marketing. That's often BD. And it's often like back deal negotiation BD. So I think that's the first problem. And that's hard to do with data because it's like small numbers of people can have a big impact on your protocol. But marketing the traditional way, I think that in 2022, when we entered the space, there were zero tools for crypto marketing. I think that was the beginning challenge is like, okay, yeah, you have Google Analytics that gives you like Web2 data, but then you couldn't match that with on-chain data. So you're like looking at like Google Analytics on one side for your site, and you're looking at Dune on the other side for like on-chain, and it's just like a whole mess, right? Uh,
Hmm.
Over the course of 2023, a lot of crypto marketing companies got started, including us, in terms of building platforms. It took a long time for these companies to get built because the data infrastructure to get on chain data was just really not there either. So it was slow, it was super cumbersome, running your own node, getting it from this blockchain, that blockchain. A lot of that is fixed now. So I think that sort of crypto marketing tools needed time to build their own infrastructure, if that makes sense, in
Hmm.
order to do the things that marketers wanted them to do. So I think that that is mostly solved now. So I'd say the two reasons we suck is like one, the tools weren't good enough in
Yeah.
2022, and
Hmm.
two, people weren't actually trying to like sell to users. Um, but I see both of these things changing a lot. I think the tools are good enough now. And then also, people are trying to target users for the first time now in the last 6 months, I would say, because people have realized that they can't just keep selling the same TGE playbook to the same group of like 5,000 users in crypto. They need
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
if they want to grow, they have to go beyond this small little crypto
Mhm.
bubble. And that means selling to real users. So I'm very optimistic that these things are changing rapidly, and we see it in real time as well, both in terms of what Safary Club members are doing and thinking about. So, for example, I got to talk to the process of doing a Safari batch 8. I talked to 100 marketers in the last like 2-ish weeks. So, like
Mm.
very concentrated, 10 calls a day back to back, all different protocols. Two major themes that people are looking at this in right now. Uh, Geographic efforts, expanding
Mhm.
to new countries, and expanding to new channels. So people are like, gone are the days of Twitter. We're looking at YouTube. We're looking at Instagram. We're looking at TikTok. We're looking at paid media and Web2. We're looking at Google Ads. And that requires data.
Mhm.
Um, So I think that that is very exciting.
Hmm.
And also localization, regional expansion, that also requires data and that
Yeah.
requires knowing your users. And so I think that forcing us off of crypto Twitter um, will force people to get real about who are their users and do they have data on them and can they actually deliver a value prop that these people are interested in versus we could just like pretend like we didn't need to talk to users before because they were only going to use our protocol for a day anyway.
No, we really need one more episode on this, because I had so many questions here. But maybe you can quickly tell what are the crypto market, like the tools that you just mentioned, like the go-to tools right now that we can use.
So I'll definitely self shill. We have Safari has one of them. Uh,
Yes.
we run a customer data platform. What a
Okay.
customer data platform is, for those who might not know, is we're basically your source of truth on users. So
Hmm.
every wallet that connects to your protocol, we enrich with both all the on-chain activity about that user, everything that user's done within your DApp or first-party application, everything that user has done in terms of interacting with you on social, and also different social handles that they might have that you don't yet know about. So it's a basically all-in-one 360-degree profile of a crypto user today across both on-chain and off-chain sources. In addition to, we also have marketing attribution at our core,
Okay.
which is how do you know which channels are working and why, and
Mm.
actually converting to the on-chain actions that you care about. So that I'd say having a customer data platform or a marketing attribution platform of some kind should be the center of your stack. There are a lot of other types of tools that are really fascinating beyond that to take sort of that first party customer understanding to the next level, whether it is um, companies like Fuel that do referral programs, companies like HypeLab that do Web3 ad networks, um, other types of companies that represent many of the different channels across the stack. I
Mm.
think that there is a very rich ecosystem that exists today for growth tools, and a lot of people are using data at the center of their stack in a way in the last 6 months in a way that nobody was doing before that, which is really, really exciting to see.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think you should become like a quarterly guest on this podcast for all things marketing because we really couldn't do cover most of the things. Also, I wanted to talk to you about LinkedIn. I wanted to talk to you about like other stuff. But for now, we can do the rapid fire and then we call you
Yeah,
again.
sounds
Okay.
good. Let's do it.
Uh so the worst buzzword in marketing, in crypto marketing right now.
The worst buzzword, um, probably mindshare. Mindshare.
Right. Okay. One thing you will never post on X.
Stuff about my family.
Nice. Personal stuff. Um, Favorite Web3 creator right now.
I'll say, I mean, the first person that came to mind when you mentioned that was Shmula. He's also a podcaster. If
Okay.
you don't know about him,
No.
yeah, he's the first person that came to mind. I think that people who ask great podcasting questions are rare. You're obviously one of them as well. But I've been on a slew of different podcasts where people ask kind of the same boring questions, and I thought that he was both like very knowledgeable about growth and asked good questions that nobody had ever asked me before.
Okay, who's that?
But
Can you repeat?
I, I, I don't know if his like name is public, but his Twitter name is Shmula. I'll drop
Okay.
the link for you.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be great. Okay, most underrated tool in anybody in like crypto marketing stack or your marketing stack.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say ours, but also I would say ChatGPT.
Oh, really? Okay. So a lot can happen. Um, Marketing in bull market, 10 on 10 fun or 10 on 10 chaos?
10 out of 10 chaos. I think it's much more fun to market in a bear market.
Yeah, okay. And this is the last one. It's like one campaign you wish like you had run in the crypto space.
I wish that we'd just run more creative campaigns. I feel like
Mm,
been really great over the last 6 months. We've seen a lot more teams adopt video as like as a content medium, and that's really cool. But I think it's also cool like the creative things you can do with like commercials. Obviously, we saw
mm.
Solana's ad flop, but there are just so many things that we could do from like a creative storytelling aspect that I mean, honestly, I think people don't have the budget to do right now, but will be really cool to like see the marketing industry get more mature in crypto and have people actually like launch ads and talk about protocols in a way that like really pulls at people's heartstrings, like we would see in like a Toyota or a Volvo ad in Web two.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would love that too, like something that's more connecting, to people than what we have. Okay, Justin, this was so much fun. We could not cover everything. Maybe we have you next quarter again, and maybe we make like a quarterly thing out of all, and we say like quarterly marketing hacks. But this can be a good intro episode, and I'm really glad you came, and this was so much fun talking to you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was great
Okay.
talking to you too.